In this set of videos, we're going to start making some marbles to explore different ways to make materials like plastic and metal and so on. So the first thing I need you to do is to go to Google Classroom, go to the marbles assignment, and download this file, which will be our image in the background to create the lighting. So you should be able just to click on it and click download, and it should go to your downloads folder. So it should be right there. And I'll click this folder to open my downloads, and I'll just move that into documents or wherever you're going to save that at. I've got too many files and it's not showing up at the top. Let's see what we've got. Let me pause and I'll find it and put it in the right place. Okay, so I'll have it in my documents folder. Once again, you can save it wherever you need to. And next we'll open Blender. So up front, I'm going to tell you we're going to do the kind of condensed version of this. In class, we did a few extra things with adding materials, but all of that was processes that we've done before, and we were just kind of reviewing and playing with it. So today we'll just focus on the key parts. So let's start by deleting everything in our scene. And let's go ahead and hit Shift A and add a mesh UV sphere. And we'll right click to make it smooth. Next, let's add a mesh plane, and this will be just a tabletop that they'll sit on. So we'll grab this on the Z axis, pull it down, and then hit S to scale it. We'll say 20, and you can adjust that size later if you want. Next, we'll go ahead and duplicate this. We're going to have a plastic one. So Shift D to duplicate, X, one for metal, one for solid glass, one for colored glass, and one for transparent glass. Okay. Next, let's switch to the rendered view. Actually, let's go ahead and switch to the shading tab here at the top. Now let's switch to the rendered view. And let's set up our background image for lighting. So we'll go to the World tab, to Color, click the yellow dot, go to Environment Texture. Everything will go pink. Click Open, and open your image wherever you have that saved at, and that will give us our lighting for our objects. Let's start with our marble here on the left, and we'll click New to add our material settings. Let's look at the principled shader, and let's make the base color black, which will make it a little easier to see what's going on. And one other thing, we need to switch our render engine. So we're going to switch to the Render tab, change it from Eevee to Cycles. And then depending on the computer you're using, if you have a GPU, switch to that. If not, leave it at CPU. So we're looking at the principled shader, and we're going to leave metallic at 0. We're going to change the roughness down to 0 to make it a bit shinier. Next, let's look at the subsurface. So we'll open this category, and we're going to change the weight to 0.3. And if I understand how this works correctly, in real life, sometimes light can penetrate the upper layers of a material and kind of bounce around and come back out. So you have this area where light's doing a little bit different than if it just hit the surface and bounced off. Next, let's look at the transmission. So we will close subsurface, go down to transmission, and we'll change the weight of transmission to 0.5. And once again, I think this is just helping the light bounce a little bit differently than it would on just a perfectly hard surface. Next, we will go to, leave transmission, open coat, and we're going to change the weight to 0.2, the roughness to 0.3, and leave the other numbers alone. and that will give it kind of a clear coat, kind of like you would see on a car, which helps mimic plastic. Typically, plastics don't have a clear coat, but it will help that effect. And let me double check. I think that is the last thing that we're going to do on the surface. So this will give us a generic plastic. You can adjust the roughness if you need a plastic that's a little less glossy. So you can move this up or move it down depending on the type of plastic that you want. So let's just name this material plastic. That way later, if you want to use this, you will have the name of that. And for my people who have been absent, I don't remember if you've been part of the lesson where we added the asset library. So we're going to add this to the asset library. If you don't know what that is, I will explain it to you when you get back to class. But we'll just hover over the name where it says plastic, right click, and mark as asset. And you'll see this little icon that looks like some books, and that will show you that it's now part of the library. Next, let's move on to our second marble. We will add a new material to that, and we'll name this one metal. And let's make this one black also, and that will help us see what's going on a little bit easier. So for this, we want the metallic to be exactly 1, and we're going to turn roughness down to 0. And this will give us a generic metal, but we'll make this silver. You can see it a little bit better, or medium gray, I should say. This way it looks more metallic because you don't typically see pure black metal. So we're going to do something else to give the surface a little bit of an imperfection, because typically things in real life aren't perfectly smooth and shiny. So what we're going to do is click on the principled BSDF, and we're going to press Control T. Now, if you're at home and Control T doesn't work, you have to turn the Node Wrangler add-on on. So if you haven't done that, you can go to Edit, Preferences, Add-ons, and search for Node Wrangler, and check that to turn it on. Then click down in the corner, and we'll save preferences and close that. Now, if you go back, select the principal node and press Control T, you should see these pop up. So we're going to keep these two and move them to the left, and we're going to select and delete the one in the middle, and we'll just reconnect the vector to the roughness. And this is going to add imperfections to the surface so that it's not reflecting light perfectly. Now, we want to have some control over how this happens, so we're going to put our mouse between these two, press Shift A, and we're going to search for noise texture. And we're going to connect that to our setup. Now, we can't really tell what this is doing, and I want to see what this node does by itself without this node. So I could unplug and replug them up, which is a little bit of a pain. But if I Control Shift left click on a node, it's going to then automatically connect it so I can see what it's doing. So right now, this isn't doing a whole lot. It's just white with a little bit of gray floating around. What we really want is a lot of small speckles. So to do that, we're going to do a couple things. We're first going to hit Shift A and add a color ramp here between these two. And I'll move this to the left. And now I can adjust the black over a little bit and move the white over a little bit, and I can see a little better what's going on. So I have just some large blots of black and white. So what I want is a lot of small little speckles. So if I come down to scale on the noise texture, change that to something like, let's do something kind of like 200. We'll go that far. This will give me a lot of little speckles. So now, if I Control Shift left click on the principal node, it will hook it up. And I'm going to take and unplug the color of the noise texture. It automatically connected it, thinking that's what I wanted. Then I'm going to take the color from the color ramp and plug it into the roughness. So now you can see those little splotches are adding some imperfections to the surface. Right now, the black is perfectly shiny. The white is completely rough. And we don't want that much of an exaggeration. So we're going to click on this little square. It's called a flag. And then we can see that we have the color of the flag below. I'm going to click on that and pull it down so it's kind of a medium gray. So this is going to give me some areas that are really shiny and some areas that might have some smudges and just a little bit of an imperfection. And that is how we make a very generic metal. So we have this named, and we'll right click and mark as asset. Next, we're going to do a very simple glass. So we'll hit new, and we're going to put the roughness all the way down to 0, and I'll just change this to black so you can see it better. And now we have a pretty good representation of a solid glass object that has a solid color. Realistically, you would have smudges and things on it, so we would go through the process of setting up the roughness and doing noise textures or something like that. But for the sake of this lesson, we'll leave this as it is. And we can just label this glass, and I'm going to make a note it's simple. That way I don't expect a whole lot if I choose to use this later. Moving on, let's go to the next marble. We'll click new, and we're going to change the roughness to 0. And for this one, we're going to make it look like glass that has some swirling colors in it. So once again, we'll select the principled BSDF, press Control T. That will give us a texture coordinates, a mapping, and then a generic texture. So we're going to keep these two on the right and just slide them over. And we're going to delete the image texture. Now, we're going to play with several different textures to get different results. So if you hit Shift A and you go down to texture, there are several different categories or types of textures that we can pick from. So let's just go down the list and let's start with, let's do the Gabor texture. It's a new one that I think is part of the newer updates. Shift A, go back to texture. Let's go down and do magic texture. Shift A, texture and noise texture. Shift A, texture, Voronoi texture. Shift A, texture and wave texture. So I'm only going to use a couple of these to demonstrate kind of how this works, but you can take any of these and experiment and plug in different parts, but we'll keep it simple for right now. So let's move this to the side and let's go ahead and do Shift A and add a color ramp. And we want the color of the ramp to go to the actual base color of our marble. So let's just start with a wave texture. And here in a little bit, you can exchange these out and play with them. So I'm going to plug this into the color. So you can see that the wave texture is giving us this repeating pattern of stripes. You can change any of these settings you want to get different effects. I kind of like this rings. You can change the axis so it turns different ways. This will change some of the details of the wave, the sine, saw, or triangle. You can change the scale. You can add some distortion. So you can already see that we're getting a very marble-like result. Details will give you some smaller details. You play with these numbers however you want. Now, what I want to show you is how you can add more colors to this. So if I wanted multiple colors, for example, black, maybe I would like for that to be blue. White, maybe I would want that to be yellow. And then if I like some green, I can hit the plus icon, add a new slider, and change this to green. And then I can slide this around to adjust how much of each color that we're getting. Next, let's add or bring over the noise texture. And I can use the factor from the noise texture to adjust the scale, getting a totally different result. I can use the noise texture to control distortion. I can use it to control vector. So you can play with any of these, plugging them into different places and seeing what kind of results that you get. So take a few minutes, experiment with these different textures until you find something that you like. Once you've done that, we'll move on to the glass marble. Okay, I assume that you have had a chance to work on the glass marble or the colored glass. So now we're going to make a transparent glass. So we're going to click new and we're going to delete the principled BSDF and add a glass BSDF. And this will give us transparent glass. Now you'll notice that what it reflects, it flips, which if you've ever seen a real glass sphere, glass marble, that's kind of what it does. Now to make this a little more interesting, let's add some little bubbles inside of it. To do that, I'm just going to hit Shift D and duplicate the glass marble, scale it down so it's a lot smaller, and just make 4 or 5 of these, and I'll change them and make some of them some different sizes. And I'm going to look at it from the right and just move some of them to the left and right so they're not all perfectly lined up. Select all of them, grab them, move them inside of our other marble, and then I will join them so they're all one object. All those are selected, so I will shift select the outside marble last and hit Control J to select them all, which I think, oh, it worked. So now they're all one object combined together. So this is the condensed version of what we did in class. Go ahead and save this file and upload this to your assignment, and then I will try to get the next video recorded soon.